This is Ben Doughty for The Hardest Game with legendary MC Michael Buffer. Good to see you again, sir, as always. Eddie and Ben Shalom both said they believe this will be the biggest fight in British boxing history, Benn versus Eubank Jr. Do you have an opinion on that?
Well, there have been so many big fights in British boxing history that's a pretty tough statement to make. But it sure as hell might be the biggest fight over the last few years. This place, from what I heard, tickets will probably be impossible to get. I mean, there's like just a queue of people dying to get tickets. I've heard numbers of 67,000 to 80,000. I don't know how the 80's possible, but they'll be hanging from the ceiling if they do.
You're too slick to offend anyone, and you've been around too long. But I want to ask you, I'm genuinely interested. I understand your position and diplomacy. Is it more about hype and substance now? Because you were around in the era of Hagler Hearns, and you mentioned Duran and Iron Barclay and all the rest of it. Is it more about the populism now than the actual quality of the fights?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think when it comes down to like hardcore fight fans, they want to see the best fights. Like now we're getting blessed with fights for undisputed titles, and that's really what fight fans want to see. This fight stands on its own because of this 35-year history of their dads and everything. It's very interesting. It's a UK fight. There's no doubt about that. But the fans want to see the best fighters fight each other, and now I think because of Riyadh season and Saudi Arabia getting involved with His Excellency Turki al-Sheikh, getting promoters to come together that never would speak to each other, and the fighters benefit, the promoters are smiling, everybody's happy, and the fans are happy. That's what matters.
That's an excellent comeback, because I might say this is a bit gimmicky with the surnames and the history rather, but what about everything that's happening right now? So next question would be, British boxing was never this big. Have we replaced or nudged the USA out of pole position in terms of the boxing capital of the world in conjunction with Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, it's funny you would mention this. The first time I came to the UK was actually 37 years ago, 38 years ago. This month, Bingley Hall, Stafford, Frank Tate versus Tony Simpson, and on the undercard in his 13th fight was a guy by the name of Nigel Benn with his 13th straight knockout. So now I get to, and then I got to introduce him when he won the title against Doug DeWitt. So now, this is the second time I've introduced a father and son, Chavez Jr., Chavez Sr. I introduced them, but there's something really special about this, because I go back to that first time I came here to the UK and actually introduced Nigel Benn, and 2-3 years later he was a world champion. So a little extra there for me, nostalgia-wise.
Do you remember the crowd violence and the CS gas canisters that were setting off that night in the Midlands?
I'll tell you a funny story about that. I do remember it, and there was this I think it was like a stink bomb or something, but there was this ammonia type of a smell. And what was happening, we were on TV with American television, and they were having a celebrity softball game or something, just like, who cares? But it went into extra innings, overtime, so we had to delay the main event. And the fans were getting restless, and you don't mess with the British fans. I mean, they're sitting there, they were ready for the fight. So I came up with the idea of, British fans are knowledgeable and they respect fighters. So I announced to the crowd, because of the stink bomb and that ammonia smell and everything, it was lingering in the ring under the lights. So we just want to make sure the fighters are going to be, able to perform properly. And they were like, "Oh, all right, that's good reason." So everybody was like calm and stayed cool, and all the clapping and hooting stopped. And they fell for it. They didn't know it was because of American television delay, and ended up with Frank Tate stopping Sivo. But it was a great afternoon of boxing.
Last question. Obviously, you're a legendary man of the microphone, and even when you look at all the ones in the decades past, like somebody like Harry Bella, Bella and Joe Humphreys and all that, I think you probably are the most.
Really going back now.
You probably are the most iconic MC of all time. But some people say, I like him, he seems a cool guy, but how is it right for him to be so much hideously wealthier than so many of the men he announced? I mean, is that just the way life is?
I think you just said it. That's the way life is. I don't know what to say.
I don't really expect anything else from that question. Michael Buffer, true legend of the game, always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you.